Strange young people have already begun to occupy every corner of the neighborhood, in the darkest place in my town, waiting for the darkest hour. They were already excited about making a fortune. It all started with a rumor, the rumor that mysteries and many treasures were hidden. Many adventurers began to gather for a fortune. At first, it was simple, adventure in the dungeon. But soon, they had to make a decision about getting more treasures through exploration, or getting out of the dungeon. The Dark Swarm also pushed adventurers to make a decision. The Dark and Darker mobile crew made this dark story even sharper and darker.
When they conducted a survey for Dark and Darker Mobile, we asked, what game does this look like to you? Dungeon was the first thing they answered. It would be difficult to talk about it without saying the word dungeon.
A rumor spread that there are tons of treasures hidden in the dungeon that you venture into. And adventurers who want to explore the dungeon come to this town to get a fortune. That's the reason they head to the dungeon.
Ultimately, you compete with other users in this game. What you compete for is not simply killing, but you have to go through bloodbath battles with other players to explore this dungeon and eventually get good rewards. If you add the elements of extraction games to this, it becomes a game with a passage to escape from this exploration without necessarily fighting.
I think it speaks to all of the loot goblins in us. It's so very satisfying when you do make a successful extraction and you get to look at all of the treasure that you've captured. Even more of a sense of accomplishment or a sense of achievement that you've managed to get your hands on all of the goodies.
I think the best part has been the 3-person co-op mode. It's really nerve-wracking being all alone in yourself in an extraction game, because like everything is against you.
ちゃんと役割分担を持って敵を倒す人がいたり、出口を見つける人がいたり、なんかそこら辺はちょっと鬼ごっこ型のゲームにも似てる要素があって、ちゃんと役割分担を決めて。出口を目指していくっていうのは面白いなと思いました。
Can you imagine what you will get after bearing all this darkness? It may take you into deeper darkness. Isn't testing our fate our pride?
A certain combat situation taking place in a closed space or exploring a cave means that you find and encounter something after recognizing the shape of this cave inside this cave environment. I think there is a sense of pressure that comes from this closed environment. I wanted a space where users can explore strategically. So the first thing we introduced was a cave, then an area like the vault you see in Tomb Raider, an open world-like town or projected space. The key is to change this space to let users create strategies or create a play flow.
In fact, Dark and Darker Mobile focuses on maximizing the sensibility of classic RPGs rather than concentrating on aesthetic aspects differed somewhat from fancy, cool, or pretty images. We spent a lot of time thinking about how to deepen players' understanding of RPGs and how to express that understanding aesthetically.
like a blazing coal, is ready to burn everything to ash. Enter the depths of the dungeon. Fight. Kill. And seize what is yours.
In this work, we couldn't include much movement because we were trying to focus on a certain scene or situation. We had to clearly show what that specific image was. We spent a lot of time thinking about which pose or composition would best describe the situation and whether it would also be visually acceptable.
The crosshair is the directional target point that the camera is looking at. Depending on where you look, the motion trajectory will be completely twisted out of shape when the character's waist bends or when an attack is made from the waist. For example, when a character swings a sword from left to right. The character bends its waist to dodge such an attack if we bend and look. The character can avoid the attack and let it pass over the head, evading the enemy's attack by matching the trajectory to the direction you are looking. I think this play is the most unique feature.
It must have been difficult for them in some ways. They want to draw pretty patterns, cool armors, and pretty hairstyles. Technical artists also want to create cool effects, textures, and shiny objects, but I kept them back and wanted them to create images in a little more serious and heavy style.
This game is not a game where characters wear fancy medieval armor, but it's closer to reality. It's a game where you die after getting hit twice by a goblin, and so on. In this system, it has the medieval look and feel, so it's very realistic. The medieval culture is very familiar to us. Certain parts of it already appeal to players with that familiarity.
다크앤다크 모바일의 미션을 한 줄로 요약을 하자면 핵심 게임 시장의 가능성을 글로벌하게 대중화시키는 것입니다.
The most important task was to see if we can spread it globally and if it is possible. We put many features in this build that we're working hard on to realize that.
조작감 이런 쪽에서는 조금 걱정이 있었거든요. 옛날에는 플레이 했을 때 비해서는 많이 개선되었을까 이런 거는 좀 이렇게 집중하면서 한번 보려고 했었는데
バトロワ系っていうとかなり日本でも人気なもうすでに人気なジャンルではあるんですが本作のような中世ファンタジーの中で扉を開いて脱出するっていう形は正直あまり日本では見ていないので未知数っていうところが正直なところだと思います。
The biggest thing I felt after G-Star ended was a sense of crisis. They say G-Star went well. Did it? G-Star may be all scripted. It could be a result we intended.
The crew is still looking for something invisible in the dark, and in an effort to become hard on their own, they created new builds every week and conducted constant testing. The journey to meet adventurers is still far from over.
I've never actually met users other than those I met at G-Star, and we had to do it on a global scale. It is a challenging mission, and I wonder if we have the resources and capabilities to accomplish it. Since the beginning of the process, I have felt a sense of crisis every week. I hope that sense of crisis would turn into the team's competitiveness at some point. We had a sense of crisis, thought about ways to tide over it, discussed it with people inside, came up with ideas, put them into action, and did it all over again.
There are definitely times when we don't agree on a single thing. We have many people who have worked on extraction games, and many of our members are PC-oriented. We have often wondered whether this would work on mobile. When that happened, we pointed out the parts that were definitely necessary and suggested that we make it in a short time and verify it to feel it out for ourselves. That's why we make builds every week. And it seems that we are clearing those doubts little by little while doing that. We are eliminating questions like, would this work?
I think all crew members will agree with me. Since the most infallible way to see how the game is built is through builds, it is definitely a great way of verification because builds are created every week and they instantly show how they have changed compared to last week or a month ago. There's no downside to it other than it needs hard work.
Instead of telling you that we can do it in the future, relying on luck, or rather than talking about it abstractly, like our expectations and ambitions, I would say that we're continuing to build a foundation now. We still have CBT1, guerrilla test, open test within KRAFTON, weekly test. I mean, this ambition isn't just about what we are going to do, but we are seeing where we're headed in the future based on what we've established.
Late last night, we successfully registered the inspected build by eliminating all the flags. Let's give ourselves a big hand. Thank you everyone. Good job.